Hey y'all, it's the Cindy Lady of East Texas. I'm back with part 2 of our coaching certification on the difference between a coach and a mentor, a leader, etc. So it's super important for you to remember that you are the leader. Yes, your team is looking to you for guidance and for direction and for answers, but if you don't give them the tools in order to find what they are looking for and you're constantly spoon feeding them, you're not helping them. You're not going to help them learn how to become self-sufficient, and you're going to make them feel enabled and fearful of growing their own team because they don't feel like they have all the tools that they need in order to be even a successful consultant, let alone a successful leader. There are so many consultants that I hear say, oh, I don't want anybody to join my team because I feel like I don't know everything. Well, as their leader, if you are constantly spoon feeding them answers, they're not learning how to find things for themselves. They're not learning how to be self-sufficient. So that doesn't create that sense of empowerment in knowing that they know about Cincy, they know about the workstation, they know how to lead others. So it's super important when you are having any sorts of conversations with your team that you are not just spoon feeding them answers, that you are giving them tools in order to navigate the places that they need to go in order to find those answers for themselves. So as a coach, if you are doing face-to-face meetings, if you're doing Zoom meetings, if you're doing FaceTime, or even if you're doing Marco Polo, it's super important for you to be engaged in that conversation. Make eye contact. Pay attention to your body language. Pay attention to the fact that you're intently listening to them and that you're not just automatically thinking about a rebuttal or your next question or how to prod them and keep the conversation going, because a true successful coaching call is going to give them the empowerment to know that they have the tools to keep going. So there is such thing as a coaching model, and I'll go over that in the third call, but you need to avoid like the sense of urgency in telling them what to do, because you're gonna just be like, oh, it's just easier if I just give you the answers. But you need to ask them questions so that it gets their wheel turning on how they have come about to the situation that they're in and how they can create a solution for themselves. Because I've said it, I've been a consultant for 10 years, and I've said that I am selective on how much I don't want to say this ugly, but I mean, I kind of take everything that other consultants say with a grain of salt, because it's not that I don't find value in what they say, but I have to make it my own. We all have different ways that we talk to people. We all have different communities that we live in. I don't live in a highly populated area, so I don't have 5 million people at my disposal, right? I have quite a bit less than that. So I can't be like, okay, well, I've got 5 million people, so no matter where I go, I'm always going to meet somebody new or something like that. That may not be the case. I live in a small town, and I have to force myself to get out. So I can't say that somebody who lives in a highly populated area, I can't be like, okay, well, those things are going to work for me, and so I'm just going to copy them, I'm going to implement them, and it's going to be perfect. No, ma'am, that's not the way it goes. You have to take what people say and tweak it and change it to where it fits you, your work style, your communication base, your level of skill. If you aren't comfortable navigating certain sorts of social media platforms or certain ways to have your customer base set up in Trello or Excel. Those things don't work for me. So I don't beat myself up and I don't go, oh, but so-and-so in a huge area uses that. That doesn't matter. If it doesn't work for me, I'm not gonna sweat it, right? So you have to make it your own. So when you're coaching people, you can't just spoon feed them or just say, oh, we'll do it this way, and here's the exact way that you need to handle it, because that may not work for them. So it's super important for you to not enable your team members in order to be who you think they should be, or based on somebody else and the way that they are, because they need to find their own methods of going through the steps in order to become successful. So when you're asking questions, when you're in conversation, always focus on the what, the how, the when, and the where. Don't ever try to say why, because it can come across as very derogatory and very accusatory, and that can make somebody who doesn't really take criticism very well, it can make them feel extremely beat up and extremely self-conscious about what they have shared with you. And as a leader, it's not your role to judge them or to really question. Why can come across as very demeaning and derogatory. So just avoid that. And then always put the ball in their court. You can continue a conversation by saying, and what else? And what else? And what else? Because you've got to get them digging deep in the types of things that they've done in order to have recruiting conversations, reach out to their customer base, different ways that they have attempted a follow-up system. You've got to get them to where they're not just having kind of a topical conversation with you. They are digging deep and trying to find more answers. So if you're kind of prodding them and saying, and what else, you're getting them to think of different ways that they can either accomplish what they need to accomplish, or ways that they have tried and maybe they're just kind of timid about sharing with you. And then when you have come down to towards the end of the conversation, and if y'all have talked about 7 different things, only have them pick 1 or 2 and then give them a strict deadline on when they feel like they can accomplish those things. Whether it's to come up with a follow-up system, or to join Amy, or to pass out 10 opportunity packets. What is a realistic timeline that they can accomplish that? Don't just say, okay, well, we talked about 7 different things, so by our next call next week, you need to accomplish all of those. No, give them 1 or 2 so that it's easy, it's manageable, and they don't feel overwhelmed. And then give them a doable timeline, or better yet, let them say, okay, I'll need about a month to work on this, so let's schedule our next calling call at that point. And then that's it. Move on and go on down the road, and then ask them how committed they are in order to do this, because it's all fun and games when you're on the phone with somebody or when you're on Zoom and you're kind of like, okay, this is great, and then you get off the phone and it's like, whoa, I actually have to do something now. So ask them, how committed are you in order to have done these things by our next call? Because if they really aren't, on a scale of 1 to 10, are you a 10? Are you really going to take this seriously? Are you really going to get this done? If they say a 1 or a 2, then say, okay, so maybe we should push this next call out maybe 2 months, because it doesn't seem like you're very committed, which tells me that you may not make this a priority to get this done. And put the ball in their court and let them know that, they don't seem very committed. They don't seem like they're going to make this a priority. And so these coaching calls really don't necessarily need to be a huge priority for you if they aren't going to take the things that you've done and said, responsibly, and be respectful of your time. So that concludes the second session, or second part of this series. So I will be back tomorrow with the third and probably final one from this coaching session. So I will talk to y'all then. Bye.